Hello, I'm John Feldt. This is the weekly water outlook for July 28th. Well, here's the jet stream pattern. I mentioned last week we were getting back in this amplified type flow pattern. We've seen it once before this summer and it brought cooler temperatures, and indeed that's what occurred this week. The ridge bulges over the west, and actually cool temperatures not in the far southwest, which is under the influence of that high, and that's really warm temperatures. Over the eastern U.S., it bulges or dips down here to the south, and that's going to bring cooler weather. And generally the heaviest precipitation is going to be along right in the boundary between those two air masses. That's where the heaviest precipitation will be. And I'm going to be describing in this briefing how it looks like this pattern will continue. It's a persistent pattern. I did want to mention we had a tropical storm out there this week, and it's dissipated. It's unfavorable for development, but we are getting that time of year when there are some areas to keep an eye out on. Keep in mind that even plumes of tropical moisture could work their way inland, and there are some areas of tropical moisture out there. None of these look like they're going to develop. This isn't really too much in the Gulf, but if any of this does pull in, it could produce some significant precipitation. Not forecast right now, but it is getting that time of year when we are going to have to keep an eye on it for possible development. So for the last 7 days across the nation, you can see that the heaviest rain did occur over the middle part of the nation. We have green and yellow, and the green and yellow is anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches. The area of red is actually 5 inches, and you can see it's sort of right over the center part of the state, Kansas, Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas. Then the southeast was also fairly wet, especially over Alabama. 5 inches of rain here at Hickory, North Carolina, over the higher elevations. Wet over the eastern part in the northeast, and then very dry over the upper Midwest. So we've actually seen dry conditions continuing over the west, dry conditions over Texas, dry conditions over the upper Midwest, and then wet conditions right here over parts of the middle part of the Midwest, over the southeast U.S., and over the eastern part of the U.S. If we look at the percent of normal, areas in red are below normal, areas in blue are above normal, and these give those trends. Look how widespread in the west, the dry conditions, and that real dark red is indicating no rain fell whatsoever over the last 7 days. Now you might be interested in the last 30 days, the percent of normal. This is sort of the bigger picture. And I wanted to show you the areas of red and blue, and these are the major trends over the last 30 days. Clearly, the southeast U.S. and parts of the Ohio Valley have been very wet. Lots of days, consecutive days of wet weather. Over the middle part of the nation in red, that's indicating it's been pretty dry, and that's a key agricultural area, northern Missouri and Iowa, desperate need of rain as soon as possible in that region. And then over parts of the south, I've sort of highlighted Texas and Oklahoma. That's been more recent rain and maybe just a 2 or 3 day rain event in Texas. Otherwise, it's been dry. So that's sort of interesting in that that's an area that's received some significant rain over a period that's been very dry. And you can see that here over the last 30 days. You can see that over Texas, even though it's shown above normal over a 30-day period, there's been about 21, 22, 23 consecutive days without rain. So I think the story is still quite dry in that region. But definitely the area that's sort of setting this, maybe not records, but definitely heading in that direction. We're looking at not much more than 2 days in a row without some rain over parts of the southeast U.S. Very wet for ever since spring in that area. These are these more localized conditions. We really could use some rain in this region, and then up in the upper Midwest, more spotty, typical type summertime rainfall. So if we look at the stream flow here, I wanted to show stream flow real quick. Corresponds very much due to the shorter term rainfall patterns. This is a 7-day average. Stream flow is running much above normal or even at a very high or near flood stage over parts of the southeast U.S. And more, some of the things that I look at for vulnerability to inland flooding, now that we're getting close to the peak of tropical season, not that far off, it's really going to ramp up. If you saw my hydrographic I sent out over the weekend for climatology of August tropical activity, you see by the end of August it begins to really ramp up. And the southeast U.S., the soil moisture, the persistent pattern, and now the current high average stream flow is really keeping this area highly vulnerable towards inland flooding should a tropical system move inland. So keep that in mind. It's really not getting better. If anything, with the rain last week, it's getting worse, and I don't see a change in that pattern. So the jet stream pattern, not a whole lot to say. Blue is early this week. The yellow line is later this week into next week. And if anything, this amplified pattern gets more amplified as we go through the week into next week. So the story right now is a ridge of high pressure in the west, trough of low pressure in the east, and right along that boundary here, right in the area between the two air masses, right here, that looks like that's going to be the best chance for precipitation as pulses of energy move over that region. Now, the placement of heaviest rainfall has been difficult. It's been very hard to sort of pinpoint where that'll be, but right now it looks like in the southern part of the Midwest, from Kansas across Missouri into parts of Illinois into Kentucky, look like the best chance for the heaviest rain this week. So on that boundary, and I wouldn't be surprised if, as we get a little closer in the next couple of days, maybe it's a little bit further north or just a little bit further south, but I think this does look like the most likely axis for the heaviest rain. But don't forget to keep an eye on the whole eastern U.S. It still looks quite wet. That pattern's going to continue, showery type weather over the northeast U.S., and then a little bit more moderate rainfall over the southeast U.S. This is going to be enhanced in this region here, maybe the higher elevations, and then we're going to have some of the coastal regions due to sea breeze interaction with tropical moisture, maybe a bit of additional rain there. As far as the major dry trends or dry signals, looks like Texas with a high confidence of no rain this week, no significant rain, and then California and the far western U.S. Now, this is one area that's going to be fairly crucial that we get some rain. I want to really see some rain over this area on the northern edge here. This area needs a lot of rain. Now, remember that area I said it's been very dry? Well, hopefully some will get into northern Missouri and help, but I think this is the area I'd like to see some enhanced rainfall in that area as well. Now, week 2, this is the outlook 5 through 13 of August. A little bit less confidence, actually a lot less confidence, especially in summertime. I did want to point out, though, that the big trend that I think we're going to have to keep an eye on is the uptick again in precipitation over the southeast and mid-Atlantic, that area in purple. We'll see if that persists. I'll probably put out something later this week, an update on that. But that could be problematic for inland flooding, for main stem river flooding. I'm not sure if that's tropical. I don't think it is necessarily. It's just an uptick in precipitation, but that looks very significant and widespread, so we'll have to keep an eye on that for week 2. So the takeaway, lower Midwest looks very wet, Kansas, parts of Missouri. East and southeast U.S. is also trending wet this week. That'll keep this enhanced tropical vulnerability. Over the west, and that should be south, it looks quite dry, and this looks like this will be a persistent pattern. Thanks for listening to this week's briefing. I will be getting my newsletter out this week with a lot of good information, as well as other information throughout the week. If you have any questions, you can always email me at john@bluewateroutlook.com. If not, I'll be talking with you again next week.